Chapter 81, Saturday, 2nd of November. It really did feel as if God had planted this tree just for him. This massive oak, with its dense golden and red autumn foliage and a supportive frame around the base, which had made climbing up onto the first branch a doddle. Bryce Lauren had been here since before dawn had broken this morning, dressed in waterproof camouflage fatigues, thermal underwear and a balaclava. He had found a comfortable, secure perch and had only needed to break a couple of small branches in front of him to give him a clear line of sight of the church porch and a clear shot. In his rucksack he carried a dry cleaner's suit bag, a flask of coffee, a sandwiches, Mars bar and a bottle to urinate in. He hadn't he had already drunk most of the coffee and eaten over half his sachets, and he felt happy. It had all worked out so well, and he knew he was totally invisible up here, unlike everyone in front of him he could see clearly, such as the woman with the small boy coming out of the church now, well before the service was over. Who was she? Had she gone to the wrong church? She didn't look like she was dressed for a wedding, all in black like that, but he thought she looked familiar. Then he realized he had seen them very briefly at Strawberry Fields. They had crossed on the stairs. He didn't like that. Was she Blaze stalking him? He didn't think so. A few minutes earlier, he had seen her hurrying up the path, almost dragging the small boy and entering the church after the bride had already gone inside and the organ had struck up. Now they came hurrying back out, almost at a run. She had a desperate look of desperation on her face. Was she meant to be going to a funeral somewhere else? Not that he cared a toss. He looked at his watch, listened to the organ. This could have been himself and Red walking down the aisle if only things had been different. He felt so sad for a moment. This could have been their wedding. Oh, Red, my love, why did you have to screw it all up? A group of about 10 uniformed policemen were standing outside the church entrance. Why hadn't they gone in, he wondered. Maybe they were going to form some kind of guard of honor when Detective Superintendent Grace and his bride emerged while they were in for a surprise. He raised the crossbow carefully, studied his arms on the sturdy branch in front of him, and stared through the telescopic sight, holding the crosshairs steady on the wooden doors. The pair of them would be coming through soon, then standing outside, posing for the traditional photographs, the one destined for their mantelpiece, Thrain. Well, that would be a different one for the family album. The groom standing there with an arrow sticking out of his right eye. He lowered the crossbow, imagined the chaos when that happened. He had his escape plan. He would slip down to the ground and sprint away, but up the road to where his car was parked, well before anyone had figured out where the arrow had come from. Oh yes, he liked this so much. What a scene this was going to center Red. He waited. Time passed slowly. Then finally he heard strains of organ music striking up, and he could not believe his ears. It was Van Morrison's Queen of the Slipstream. His and Rex's song, you bastards, you absolute bastards. He could not believe it. The doors were opening now. He could see the bride and groom stepping out. His target. He raised the crossbow, shaking in anger still, finding it hard to hold his aim on Roy Gray's face. Then a shadow passed across, blotting out his view. It was a huge double-decker coach pulling up right in front of the church, completely blocking his view. Get out of the fucking way, he said, but the coach did not move. Then he saw a second pull up behind it, then a third behind that one. Shit, he thought. Shit. What the fuck was going on the other side of them? He rammed the crossbow into the dry cleaner's suit bag he brought with him and dropped down to the ground. 3 starting count, chattering go coaches. He hurried beside them and found his view of the church now blocked by a row of limousines. 2 of the drivers, their caps removed, were leaning against an old, gleaming black Rolls Royce, smoking cigarettes. He walked over to them and said, "They're bad for you, those things. They'll kill you." Then, in a strop, he walked off back towards his car. "Fuck you," one of them shouted after him. He raised a hand behind his back and gave him the bird. Chapter 82, Sunday, 3rd of November. Roy Grace woke with a start from a troubled dream. His right arm, curled around Cleo's neck, was numb, but she was sound asleep and he did not want to disturb her. He loved the feeling of her warm, naked body against his, her bum pressed up tight against him. She stirred for an instant, then her rhythmic breathing continued again. Suddenly she snored for a few moments and he grinned, loving the sound. Outside was total silence. That felt strange but wonderfully peaceful. They were in a suite in Ballast Court, a country house, hotel and spa 20 miles west of Brighton, secluded and close to the sea, where they were staying before jetting off on honeymoon on Monday. Cleo's parents were in their house looking after Noah. It was never silent like this in the city, nor was it ever so pitch dark. He thought back to the events of yesterday. The wedding service had been beautiful, and he had never seen Cleo look so lovely. The reception at the Royal Pavilion had been an intensely happy occasion, surrounded by friends, colleagues, and Cleo's family. Her father's speech had been brilliant, and Glenn, bless him, had told a number of jokes of questionable taste that had fallen a little flat, but overall his mates had been generous and witty. Then Norman Podding, clearly the worst for wear, had suddenly stood up, despite Bella Loy's attempt to make him sit back down. Podding had raised his glass and announced that he wished to propose a toast to the happy couple. Roy and Clea, I just want to give you one word of advice. Don't buy a bed from Harrods for your new home. I'm told the Loys stand by their products. To an awkward silence, punctured by a few titters of laughter, he sat back down, chortling away to himself. At least his own speech had gone down well, Grace thought, despite his nerves. And part of the cause of his nerves had been from the dream he'd had on Thursday night, the dream of Sandy standing at the back of church responding to the priest. Father Martin sang loudly and clearly, first, I am required to ask anyone present who knows a reason why these person may not lawfully marry to declare it now. Then Sandy's voice equally clear, carrying down the aisle, I do mean I'm married to him. The dream had made him turn instead to the rear of the church yesterday, and seeing the veiled woman in black with a small boy standing beside her. Had he imagined her? Had his mind been playing tricks? It must have been that, because when he turned to look again, as Glenn had stepped forward with the ring, she and the boy were no longer there. Had he imagined it? He shook suddenly and shivered. Someone walking over your grave, his mother used to say so whenever he did that. All right, my love, Cleo murmured. He kissed her softly on the back. I love you, he said. Love you so much, she replied sleepily. Then he felt her hand stroking his thigh, gently at first, then more insistently, moving up until her fingers were lightly playing with his genitals. Instantly he began stiffening. I thought you were sleeping, he whispered. I thought you were too, but one part of you doesn't seem to be. She rolled over and her mouth found his. Her breath was sweet and her lips soft. She stroked her lips with her tongue, then suddenly wriggled down the bed a short distance and began to tease the right nipple with her tongue. He let out a gasp of pleasure. She continued teasing it, then moved slowly further down the bed, kissing his chest, then his stomach, then took him softly in her mouth. Christ, he gasped with pleasure. After some moments, she slowly set back up his body, lying on top of him, gripped him firmly but gently, and guided him inside her. God, I love you, he murmured, nuzzling her ear. Are you sure, Detective Superintendent Grace? I've never been more sure. That's just as well, isn't it? Because you're really stuck with me now. Yeah, well, I'll just have to get used to that. She pinched his nipples, sending visions of pleasure shooting through him. Then she whispered, didn't your mother ever tell you it's rude to talk with your mouth full? She said that didn't count with tall, leggy blondes. She slapped his cheek playfully, and at that moment Grace did not think he had ever felt happier or hornier or more at peace in all his life. I love you to the ends of earth and back. That's all? Bitch. Horny brute. They kissed tenderly, then she whispered, I love you. Way, way, way beyond the ends of the earth, and right back at you. Deep inside her, she squeezed him hard. Married's life, not total shit, is it? He was silent for a moment, then he said, nah, it's not total shit. Chapter 83, Sunday, 3rd of November. And this is the master bedroom, Red said proudly. Her father shambled along behind her, followed by her mother. Although she was elegant, he was wearing stout shoes, baggy denim, and a kind of bulky, shapeless anorak he always wore. Years of gardening and sailing after his retirement had long removed any of the fashion consciousness he might have once had. Clothes were functional for him, their purpose to keep out the wet and cold, no more. Red was minded that, although she had always secretly hoped that if she ever had a relationship that lasted anything like as long as her parents and her partner would still bother to make himself look attractive to her. Sometimes she wondered when her parents had last had sex. Looking at her father now, she decided fondly it must have been several decades ago. This is a lovely room, darling, her mother said. Pity about the view, though, her father added. He was right about that. Red thought it was a huge room, large enough for a king-size bed and space either side of it to put in fitted cupboards, but it was at the rear of the flat, with a view straight across an alley to another building, so it would never get any sunlight. I'm only going to be using it for sleeping, Daddy, she said. So much of the year it will be dark anyway. It's the living room that I really love. To her relief, both her parents nodded approvingly. Yes, her mother said. The living room is lovely. It was. The apartment was on the top floor of a mansion block in Kemp Town. It comprised a large living dining area with a breakfast bar, an island hob, and generous kitchen, and had a wide sun terrace overlooking the English Channel. In addition to the master bedroom, there was a much smaller guest bedroom and another room, not much bigger than a broom closet, that would take a spare single bed or make a small office. I can see you living here, her father said. Oh, you can? It's delightful. How many apartments at this price level have a sea view, he said. Very few, Tony replied. Very few, Red replied. I can tell you from work, and thank you again for the loan. Your father and I are always here to help you, darling, her mother said. Red smiled. I love you guys. As soon as my flat money comes through, I can pay you back. Don't worry about that, darling, her father said. The important thing is for you to have a home you feel safe in. There's something about this place that really does make me feel safe, Red said. She walked across the bare living room, opening the French doors, and stepped out into the balcony. The fine weather had lasted through the weekend, and Brighton looked at its stunning best, the sea reflecting the sky with a deep blue. To her right, she could see the Brighton Eye and the pier beyond. To the left, the West Harbour Mall of the marina. A mile or so out to sea, in front of them, several yachts were taking part in a winter race series, their sails simmering in the early afternoon sun. When do you have to exchange contracts? Her father asked. Red shrugged. Well, if you're really still happy to lend me the money, bearing in mind what's happened, as soon as possible, but it's going to be difficult now. Please don't worry, I'm okay where I am. I hope you're not okay where you are, darling, her mother said. We want you out of there as quickly as possible and away from the horrible man. We were well insured, luckily, her father said. Your mother and I will be fine. Your safety is our prime concern now, darling. Just let us know when you need the money, her mother said. And one thing that is terribly important for you is to make sure that horrible woman never finds out where you are moving to. I'm making sure that as best I can, Red replied. I agree with your mother, her father said. None of them took any notice of the small van parked a short distance along on the far side of the street. Chapter 84, Sunday, 3rd of November. Fuckwits, said Bryce Laurent, sitting in his little Ford van on the seafront, which shimmered in a strong gust of wind while he listened to the conversation. He was staring at the elegant Regency building that in former times would have been a single dwelling with servant quarters, no doubt, but was now divided into flats, the kind that would burn easily. Modern apartment blocks were designed to contain fires impossible to destroy, but not an old building like this. He looked it up on the internet, and the flat Red was buying was on the top floor. He'd seen them come out onto the terrace and look at the view. It must be magnificent from up there. Too bad you'll never get to enjoy it. Behind him, the rear of the van was nicely kitted out with a mattress and duvet, and a number of restraints he had fitted himself, along with a big bag containing a few implements with which to cause Red a lot of pain, which she richly deserved. Pillars, razors, a small gas blowtorch, some piano wire, an electric shock machine, a hood, and a few masks from a joke shop from him to wear. The God of Justice was surely smiling at him today. There was a Fox and Son estate agency board fixed behind the front door. Ground floor, flat for sale, I read. He dialed the number and asked when it would be possible to view the ground floor flat at the Royal Regent Mansion block whenever you like. So it's an executor sale, so we have access whenever convenient. He thanked the agent and made an appointment for that afternoon. Such good news. And it was such good news that Red and her parents liked the top floor flat so much. The only bad news right now was the lack of accommodation. Strawberry Fields had suited him rather well. He was left alone there. Breakfast boxes delivered to his door every morning. He could be totally anonymous there for as long as needed, and Lynn was fully paid up for 2 more weeks. But he had seen his photograph on television this morning, a big black detective calling him a dangerous man, warning the public not to approach him. Me, I'm gentle until I get angry, and I'm angry now. You better believe it. But now the heat was off. They had Matt Wainwright in custody. How good is that? Except the girl on reception was sharp. She had seen his face several times. He could not take the risk that she might call the police, so sadly there was no going back there. He would sleep in the van tonight, then tomorrow the fun would really begin. He sprang to attention. Red and her parents were coming out of the front door of the building now, going off to the Grand Hotel for Sunday lunch. Such a nice place. He totally approved. He did not bother to follow their little Honda SUV. He just listened to their progress, heard them being greeted at the restaurant and shown to their seat. Anyone like a snifter? Her idiot father said. Both her parents ordered gin and tonic. Red ordered a Sauvignon Blanc. He had to listen to them pursuing the menus. Red's stupid mother and imbecile father ordering the Sunday roast. Red ordered the sea bass option. Ah, so healthy, good girl, that's my Red, so healthy, my angel. I need you healthy to endure all I'm going to put you through. I'd hate to think you're dying before I'm done with you. Really, I would. You've got lots of suffering in front of you to make up for all you've put me through. Your last words on earth will be, I'm sorry, Bryce, I truly love you. I will love you forever, I promise. That's what you will say with your dying breath. Really, you will. Then I will release you. I'm a man of my word. Chapter 85, Sunday, 3rd of November. I need to warn you in advance about the condition this place is in, the estate agent said with a slight French accent, unlocking the front door of the Royal Regent Mansion block with a jailer-sized bunch of keys with her free hand. She held the particulars. She was an elegant woman in her mid-40s, with chick blonde hair, a smart navy coat with brass buttons, and an expensive-looking handbag. She had told him her name, but he had forgotten it. Sophie, Sandra, and Susie. He didn't care, but he didn't like forgetting things. Normally, he remembered names scrupulously. He was too distracted. He knew too much. On edge, he needed to calm down and sharpen up. It's an executive sale, you see, Mr. Millett. The family have been arguing about the valuation for a couple of years, and nothing's been touched. And I'm afraid it was in the pretty neglected state when the owner died. Good, Bryce Lawrence said, scratching his itching chin through his beard. I'm looking for a restoration project. Well, this is certainly one. The wiring's frankly in a dangerous state, and the plumbing's pretty ancient. Wiring in a dangerous state was music to his ears. They entered the communal hallway, which appeared to have recently been done up. There was a smell of fresh paint and new carpet, and a row of smart-looking mailbox pigeonholes. Several bicycles stood propped against the wall, and leaflets littering the floor. He noticed the link fire alarm high up on the wall. City regulation in all apartment buildings. She fumbled with her bunch of keys, found the right one, and locked the door to their right. Pressed the light switch, and they entered. Bryce wrinkled his nose in disgust at the musty old people smell and the hint of damp and mildew. They were in a tiny hallway with a framed embroidered prayer on the wall beside a wooden Victorian rack on which hung a dusty beige mackintosh and a tweed cap. He followed the agent through into the sitting room, a small, drab and sad feeling space with hideous flock wallpaper, its view through grey net curtains out onto the seafront, mostly obscured by iron railings and a row of dustbin. It was furnished with a 1950s three-piece suit, a 3-bar electric fire on an ancient brown flex in the grate between a marble mantelpiece and a square television that looked like something out of the Ark. A framed replica of Constable's Hay Wain was fixed slightly crooked to one wall, and replica Turner Seascape on another. He had nice taste in art, Lauren said. The agent looked at him quizzingly, as if unsure whether he meant that or was making a joke. Yes, she said, earring on the side of caution. Quite. Great painters. Great painters, she said. I understand from the family that all the contents are for sale by negotiation. He smiled. Good to know. He looked back at the television. It was the television that interested him the most, but he tried not to let that show. He glanced up at the stucco ceiling, which was an ochre colour above the dado rail, studying the ancient smoke detector. I think he must have been a heavy smoker, she said, looking up to smoking kills you, he replied, quiet. He looked at the television set again, staring at it for long since dead. Quite an antique, isn't it? She said, cocking his interest. Wonder if it only gets programs. Wonder if it gets old programs. She gave him another uncertain look, as if she was unable to tell whether he was being humorous or serious. Then he followed her on a tour of the rest of the gloomy little ground floor flat. He saw the toilet with its wooden seat and stained bowl, a small frosted glass window above it, and the wallpaper bulging in the bottom in one corner and molted, a sure sign of damp. He stared at the window for some moments before following her into the kitchen. In keeping with the rest of the flat, it was a drab, old-fashioned room with an ancient Lee fridge and a filthy-looking cloth hanging on a wooden drying rack. This is definitely in some need of some modernization, she said. Some, he thought. There wasn't going to be any need, not for his purpose, but he didn't tell her that. Again, he clocked the smoke detector in here. Following her, he peered into the grimy tub bathroom with brown stains running down the tube, then the master bedroom, which had a cattle-wick bedspread over a narrow double bed. He wondered if anyone had ever had sex in this room, then shuddered in revulsion at the very idea. It was strange that there was no photographs, he thought, but maybe the family had already claimed them. Not that he cared. The television was the only thing on his mind at this moment, and the ancient wiring, of course, that was good, so good. Especially the wiring for the fire alarm in the communal area. None of the furniture in any of the rooms would have passed modern fire regulation. He thought perfect. The place was a tinderbox waiting to go up, and it would not have to wait long. What about parking, he asked. There is a space that comes with the properties to the rear, she informed him. Behind the toilet there's an alleyway with one space that will accommodate a reasonably sized car. Quite rare for properties in Kemp Town, actually, she said, her voice brightened as she pointed out on the floor plans. That's very good, he said. It is, she sensed his interest. I'm sure the family would be open to offers, Mr. Millett. She said it's been empty for a while now, and a lot of people I've known around here have been put off by the condition, but with some vision and little investment, this could be turned into a very nice flat. You could make it a jolly cozy. You could make it jolly cozy. It's interesting, he agreed. It definitely would be cozy. It has potential, a lot of potential, she agreed. And then she frowned. Was she frowning at his beard? He didn't care. The television was the thing, oh yes, and it was perfectly located in the corner. From his brief time in the fire brigade before he had been sacked, he had learned quite what a danger old television set presented, especially those that caught fire, which were located in a corner. The fire would shoot up two walls simultaneously and rapidly spread from there, especially with the old dry paper covering the walls and no fireproofing between the flats here. He could be sure that, and the old television set was a frequent cause of fires, and there would be little to be suspicious of when the television being the source. Yes, beautiful. You're smiling, she said. You like it? I do. I like it a lot. She looked at her watch. I'll have to move on. I have another appointment to go to. I'll give you my card if you would like to take a second viewing any time. He took a glance at her. Sylvie Young. Thank you, Sylvie. I need a quick pee, of course. He hurried back into the toilet, closed, and locked the door, then turned his attention to the window. It had a rusted lever handle on it, but as he had noticed earlier, no lock. He smiled. Simple. To mask the sound, he pulled the chain flush. Then he yanked the window handle. It was so crowded that for a moment it seemed almost wilted to the locking stud. Then on the second try came free. He pushed the window frame hard. It did not budge. It did not budge. He tried again, then a third time, and finally it opened. A spider scurried down a web outside and out of sight. He peeped out into the alleyway. The agent had talked about nothing there. He pulled the window almost shut, leaving the lever free. It was quite big enough for him to crawl through later under the cover of darkness. He sauntered back across the flat to the front door where the agent was waiting and telling patiently. He has potential, most definitely, he said. It does. It needs someone with a little vision. I have vision, he replied. I have so much vision. I can see that, she said. This is definitely my kind of place. Chapter 86, Monday, 4th of November. Norman made her feel safe. She loved to wait curled up beside his plump body and to smell the stale pipe smoke on his breath. That smell reminded her of her father, who had died over 2 decades ago. When she was in her early teens, she rarely ever seen her father without a pipe in his hand or his mouth. He had always cleaned it, filled it, tamping down the tobacco, lightening, setting rich blue clouds of sweet-smelling smoke swirling around the room towards her, just the way Norman did. After years of looking after her constant ailing mother, it had never occurred to her that one day she might fall in love with someone and start a totally new life. But this was how she felt now, lying in Norman Potting's arms, feeling his morning erection against her stomach. I have to go, babe, she whispered. He rolled over and looked at the radio alarm. Briefing's not until 8:30, worth 2 whole hours, and I'm feeling a bit randy if you want to. No, go on, let's have a Monday morning quickie. I have to leave early. She kissed his forehead. Isn't there some terrible joke you tell that about someone ordering in a restaurant? The bloke in the cafe who orders a quickie, the waitress says it's actually pronounced quiche. So Bella giggled. I've got to go. I'm not at the main briefing. I have to be at Brighton Snick first thing to brief the outside inquiry team. She slipped out of bed. Come back. I'm missing you. Missing you too, she retorted and blew him a kiss. God, she didn't understand it. After years of working together and loathing this man, listening to his terrible jokes and boasts of his conquests one after another, she could not have imagined in 100 years that she might fall in love with him. But gradually her dislike of him had turned to pity, and then to very different sorts of feelings for him. Inside, he was a good man who'd had a shit childhood, and a bit like her own after her father died, and she realised eventually that we were both looking for the same thing, albeit in different directions. They were looking for love. Even now she couldn't work out how it really happened. Didn't people say sometimes you fell for opposites? But maybe, she thought as she stood in the shower, almost regretfully washing his smell of her, it was something else you fell for. She'd been 15 years in the police, 15 years of seeing this shit side of human life. Slowly, gradually, however irritating Norman Potting was, she had come to see him as a decent man, a good man in a rotten world. Then he'd been diagnosed with prostate cancer. He was scared as hell about that, and she realised she was scared as hell of losing him. Sure, there was an age gap, but at heart he was just a big kid. He made her feel safe, but beneath all that bluff exterior there was something deeply tender and vulnerable about him that made her want to throw her arms around him and protect him. Last night, after he fell asleep in her arms, she had prayed, as she often did. She prayed to God to make his cancer better, to ensure he didn't lose what he was terrified of losing, his winky action. She did not want him to lose that either. She had not had many lovers in her life, and Norman was the best by a million miles. He knew how to turn her on in ways she had never known, and he took genuine pleasure in that. He cared, he really did. So many colleagues dismissed him as an old sweat a dinosaur way past his sell-by date, but they were wrong. He was in his prime, and she was determined not to let anyone ever again dismiss him. That was something she liked about Roy Grace. Unlike so many others, he actually got Norman. He realised just how good he was. Maybe in time she could change him, she thought, stop him from making a fool of himself like the way he had done on Saturday at the wedding. It was insecurity, that was all. If she could make him feel secure, she was confident she could soften and change him. She stepped out of the shower, a towel around her body and another like a turban around her head. He had gone back to sleep. She leaned down and kissed his forehead. I love you, she said. I love you so much, he farted. Chapter 87, Monday, 4th of November. Building fires had a repellent, noxious smell that was utterly distinctive, Bella thought. She could smell one now at 7:45 in the morning as she drove her Mini west into Brighton along the cliff top. From Norman's home in Peacehaven, it was getting stronger. The acrid smell of burning paint, plastic, wood, rubber, paper, a smell that was tinged with sadness and tragedy. Any home that burned meant the loss of so much to the occupants, their photographs, memories, possessions gone forever, as had just happened to Red Westwood's family. As she negotiated the roundabout above the marina and headed through the early morning daylight along the road she loved so much, Kempstown Marine Parade, with its elegant Regency Terrace house, she saw slivers of strobing blue lights. Then, as she neared over to her right, she saw the thick black smoke belching from a ground floor window, and from the first floor window above. She swung across the road and pulled up again behind a marked Ford Mondeo, then climbed out of the car, clad off her donkey jacket in the chilly air, and held up her warrant card to the young male police officers. One was tall and thin, and the other short, stocky, and bespectacled. She didn't recognize neither of them. Several bewildered-looking people, residents of the building her had been evacuated, she presumed, were gathered on the pavement. Most of them looked as if they were just thrown on any clothes they could find. A young, shaven-head man sporting a goatee beard held a laptop under his arm. A teenage boy was filming the whole scene on his phone. Suddenly, a panicky-looking woman, clad in a dressing gown and slippers, her hair a mess, came running out of the building, holding an infant boy in her arms and looking around in desperation at the knot of people. She thrust him at another woman, crying, "Please take him, take Rice. My daughter's still inside with the dog. Someone please help me." She turned to run back in the small, so stepped in and passed. "The fire brigade will be here in a moment. They'll have equipment. They'll go straight in," the officer said. "Do you know where in the building she is?" Bella asked her urgently. In the distance she could hear the faint but distinct wail of multiple signs. Then as she looked up, she suddenly saw a dog frantically barking, leaping against the window on the third floor, a beautiful golden retriever. "She's in there with the dog, Megan. My daughter's in there. Megan's in there. She wouldn't leave without him. Rocky, he wouldn't move." The whole place was filled with smoke. "I kept calling him and he wouldn't come." The woman looked up. "I have to go back. I have to get Megan." She tried to sidestep the policeman, but he blocked her path. "No," the bespectacled police officer said. "You can't go back in. I can't now. You, my colleague, will go." "No, I'll go," Bella said. "I have to." There was utter panic in the woman's voice. The retriever was getting increasingly frantic. Bella stared at its face, at the poor helpless creature, and felt a stab in her heart for it. Where the hell was the little girl? The woman pushed the shorter policeman so hard he almost fell. "I'm going in. I'll just dash up and grab Megan," she said, and strode determinedly towards the front door in her slippered feet. The tall officer ran over and grabbed her arm. "I'm sorry, madam. I can't allow you to go back inside." "Do you know where in the building she is?" Bella asked her again, even more urgently, as she headed towards the front door herself. "It's my child," the woman shook her head in bewilderment. "My child. She's going to die. I can't leave her. Don't you understand? Let me go." "We can't allow you going, ma'am, for your safety. They'll say that the fire will be here in a minute. They'll go in with the breathing apparatus and get her. Meantime, my colleague was going in now." "It'll be too late." She raised her voice, then shouted hysterically, "Someone help me, please. Someone help me get my child." Then she broke free of his grip and ran towards the door. One slipper came off and she snorted. He ran after and seized her arm firmly again. "Sorry, I can't allow you to go back in." "You have to," she screamed. Bella called out. "What flat number?" "5," the woman replied. Third floor. Please hurry. Please hurry." Bella looked up at the window. There she could see the dog was physically hurling itself at the glass. She'd been there less than a minute and it was already seemed much longer. "Megan's her name, right?" Yes, and Rocky." Bella pushed open the front door. The smell of smoke was faint in here, and the stairs looked clear. This wasn't going to be a problem, she thought. She ran up the first flight, calling the girl's name, and immediately entered a thin mist of vow smoking on the first floor landing, swirling like tendrils around her. The stairs ahead were in darkness above her. She could hear the frantic scream of the girl. Mummy! Mummy! Bella threw herself up to the second floor. The smoke was thicker here, and she could feel heat coming through the wall to her right. She coughed, her throat stinging, pulled off her coat and held the collar over her face. Breathing through it, she ran up to the next floor, which was in darkness. The door marked number 5 was open with ghostly holes of grey smoke. There's like seahorse pouring out. Megan, Megan, she shouted. She heard the little girl crying, screaming nearby, and the sound of barking. She took a deep breath and entered, feeling instantly disorientated, the smoke stinging her eyes. They shouted again. Hello, Megan, where are you? Call your name so I know where you are. She heard the girl shouting her name. Bella called, where are you? Then she gagged. She coughed and felt like she was inhaling also cotton. Her eyes were watering so much she was virtually blind. She needed to get out of there, she knew, but she couldn't leave the girl. Megan, she called out, then coughed. Painfully, she stumbled over something in a narrow hallway, a toy of some kind, then crunching some pieces of what felt like Lego. Coughing. She could hear barking now. Megan, coughing again. She fumbled for a light switch, keeping her coat collar firmly out of her mouth and nose. The carpet beneath her felt warm, as if there was an underfloor heating turning up too high. She found a light switch, but nothing happened. The smoke momentarily cleared, and she could see a closed door in front of her, and she could hear barking on the other side of it. But she was aware of backdrop danger, or she wondered what if flashed over danger. She felt confused about whether or not to open the door. Suddenly, behind her, flames filling the doorway melted. Scalding plastic was dripping down onto her. Light fittings and cables were falling around her like scorching tentacles. Bella screamed in pain as one struck her cheek. Get low. She remembered from a previous fire she had attended, talking to the firefighters present afterwards. It was the fire that killed most people. It wasn't the fire that killed most people. It was inhaling the toxic fumes. She crouched lower and lower, saw little flashes above her like angels dancing. Then she saw the edge of a sofa burning, the flames getting increasingly intense. Christ, how long did she have before flash over? It sounded like the little girl screaming and the barking dog were on the other side of the door. Bella seized the handle and carefully pushed it open from the small amount of daylight in the room. Penetrating the increasingly dense, acrid smoke, she could just make out the shape of a little girl curling in the middle of the floor holding the dog. Suddenly the wall to her left became glowing, as if it was covered in red fluorescent coral. The curtains and wallpaper on fire. She realized, Christ, she was scared. Had to get out now. She ran forward and grabbed the girl and tried to grab the dog, which was whining in terror, but it ran out of reach and disappeared. Which way? Then she could see a figure in the window, and she realized it must be the fire brigade. She dragged the girl towards the window, keeping as low as she could, coughing more and more, increasingly blinded by the stinging smoke. The floor beneath her was getting hotter. She reached the sash window beneath her, and between her and the firefighter managed to lever it up sufficiently for her to push the girl through into his arms. Almost instantly there was a deafening roar of flames behind her. She heard a splintering sound, and suddenly she was falling through the air. The floor must have collapsed, she realized in terror. She landed hard and fell forward in agony. It felt as though she had broken her leg. All around her, the room was glowing. Her head was spinning. The floor was getting hotter. Her face was burning. She felt as if she was inside a huge oven. She was going to faint. Keep going. She must keep going. She lay flat on the floor. Then suddenly, through the dense smoke above her, she could see flickering like flame. She realized, Norman, she mumbled. Please come and get me, Norman. I'm scared. She knew she must not panic. Just kept focusing. She tried to figure out where the window must be. Something searing hot fell on her face, and she desperately brushed it away, burning her hand. Then something else hot and stringy. She pulled her coat over her head, sucking frantically through the fibers of the fluff for air, but all that came through were hot, oily fumes. She coughed again, then again, panicking from lack of air, totally blinded by smoke and tears now. Help me, she cried out, and then she crawled forward again on all fours, keeping the coat pressed against her face. Norman, suddenly she realized the coat was on fire. No! In total panic, she pushed it away from her and scrabbled forward as fast as she could. Hard to get to a window. Had to. Then flames erupted right in front of her. No, please, no. She spun around, scrabbled away from them, and suddenly saw an entire wall of flame in front of her. She spun sideways, more flames. Her face felt like it was cooking. She breathed in something that might have been scalding oil. It burned her throat and her lungs. Please help me, she said. Oh, God, please help me. Where's Norman? The floor was crackling beneath her. It was moving, swaying. She rolled to her right. Thrown by her sudden movement, it was buckling. The floor was collapsing. She was grasping for air, but all she breathed in were increasing amounts of the oppressive, choking smoke. Outside in the street, there was chaos, with half the road taped off inside the cordon. There was 3 fire appliances, the fire officer's car, 2 ambulances, and 2 police cars. Water spraying through the low windows from 2 powerful hoses. Beyond the cordon stood the gaggle of residents, forlornly watching the attempt to save their homes. Mingled with them were several reporters and photographers, and a growing crowd. Even at this early hour, photographing or filming the scene with their phones, and some no doubt tweeting excitement. Bryce Laurent, though, he was watching from a safe distance on the far side of Marine Parade, sitting in his van, smiling. Yes, the whole building was well alight now, helping by the fact that the fire engine took so long to arrive thanks to his plan. From his brief time in the fire service, he knew where all the fire plants that served the city of Brighton and Hove were located. The nearest to here in Camptown were in Road Dean. He had sent those ones going in the opposite direction by a 999 call to say there was a fine apartment building on the far side of Rottingdean. The next nearest were in Preston Circus in central Brighton. He'd sent them to a fire in the Amex Stadium to the north-east of the city, phoning on a different mobile phone and with a different accent, just in case it was the same operator. The ones that had finally arrived first had come from home nearly 10 minutes away. That was all the time they had needed. Flames were now leaping out of the windows of the top floor, the fourth, the front windows of the flat. Red had taken her parents to see that they were so excited she'd be buying when she had come out on the terrace with the parents and talked excitedly about the view. Not anymore, kiddo. The elegant front facade of the Royal Regency was already blackened with smoke, and flames were visible in every window. The firefighters had briefly run a ladder up the front, but they'd had to retreat soon after. Of course, they were up against a professional. It looked from here as if there might be someone trapped in the building. That was too bad, he thought. Collateral damage, sad, but shit happened. The important thing was that Red wasn't going to be moving in here anytime soon. She wasn't going to be moving in here ever. She wasn't going to be moving in anywhere ever again. He looked at his watch, 8:09 a.m, time for some breakfast. He had a long and busy day ahead with a very important appointment at midday. He was all prepared for it. Across the road there was a bit of a commotion. The woman in her dressing gown was with a little girl who had come down the ladder, and another child at the back of an van was being treated by a paramedic. A camera crew was filming her, and several people gathering around, murmuring, obscuring his view. Then through a gap he could see a dog. It was one of those golden retriever Labrador dogs, wagging its tail. Although this one was far from grown, it looked like it had been rolling in suit. In happier times, Red had talked silently about getting a dog like that. She said they were intelligent, caring pets, which is why they were used so much as guide dogs for the blind. To him, they will always look dumb, and that one across the road looked as dumb as they came. Two firefighters in breathing apparatus and holding thermal imaging cameras emerged from the front door. They had a defeated air about them, hardly surprising. Bryce thought, he'd done a good job. No amount of firefighters were going to be able to put out what he had started here. He had seen to that. The building was going to be a demolition project. It would be years before it was rebuilt. How are you going to feel about that one, Red? Thanks for listening.